Hello history enthusiasts and curious minds. Today, we're journeying back in time to one of the most iconic, yet chilling, structures in all of England. For nearly 1,000 years, it has stood over the Thames cold, grey, and silent. Kings were crowned in its shadow, traitors were executed at its gates, and within its walls, thousands screamed their last breath. This is not just a fortress. It is a tomb of history. This is the Tower of London, the Fortress of Blood. From its very foundations, laid by William the Conqueror in the 11th century, the tower was destined for a complex, often brutal, legacy. Originally built to strike fear into the hearts of rebellious Londoners and assert Norman dominance, it swiftly evolved beyond a mere stronghold. Imagine, if you will, the sheer audacity of this structure rising against the city's skyline. A stark white testament to power. Visible for miles, it wasn't just a castle. It was a statement. A declaration that a new order had arrived, and resistance was futile. But while its primary function was military, the tower quickly amassed other roles, each adding layers to its dark mystique. It became a royal palace, a place where monarchs lived, feasted, and held court. Imagine the opulence, the tapestries, the bustling life within these very walls. Simultaneously, it served as a treasury, housing the crown jewels and the nation's most precious artifacts. It was also an arsenal, a repository for weapons that would defend the realm. But perhaps most famously, and certainly most chillingly, it became England's most notorious prison and execution site. The stone walls, initially gleaming white, slowly absorbed the centuries of human drama, turning a somber gray. If these stones could speak, oh, the tales they would tell. Tales of power struggles, of betrayal, of unwavering loyalty, and of ultimate despair. This place has witnessed the grandest pageants and the most intimate tragedies. Let's begin with its role as a prison. It wasn't a common jail. The tower was reserved for the highest-profile captives, nobles, clergy, and those deemed a direct threat to the crown. Their crimes often weren't petty theft, but treason, the ultimate betrayal. Many entered through Traitors' Gate, a water-level entrance, through which prisoners arrived by boat directly from the Thames. Imagine that final, chilling journey. The ominous archway silhouetted against the sky. Knowing that once you passed through, your fate was sealed. The gate itself seems to sigh with the weight of centuries of desperate souls. Among its earliest and most tragic prisoners were the two young princes, Edward V and his brother Richard, Duke of York. They were held here in 1483, ostensibly for their safety. After their uncle Richard III seized the throne, they simply vanished. Their fate remains one of history's most enduring mysteries. Were they murdered? And if so, by whom? The very stones whisper their unanswered questions. This story alone cements the Towery's reputation as a place where innocence could be snuffed out by ambition. Then there's the procession of prominent figures caught in the treacherous currents of Tudor politics. Anne Boleyn, Henry VIII's second wife, was imprisoned here, accused of adultery and treason. Can you imagine the fear, the isolation, knowing that once you had been queen, adored and celebrated, and now you were confined, awaiting an almost certain death? Her scaffold stood on Tower Hill, a place that earned its gruesome name from the sheer number of executions carried out there. She walked to her death with dignity, a testament to her spirit, even in the face of absolute power. Her cousin, Catherine Howard, Henry VIII's fifth wife, followed a similar, heartbreaking path. Condemned for similar charges, she too faced her final moments within these walls. The tower saw not just the fall of queens, but the demise of powerful men like Thomas More, the brilliant scholar and Lord Chancellor, who refused to acknowledge Henry VIII as the head of the Church of England. His unwavering conscience cost him his life, making him a martyr in the eyes of many. The cells of the tower, particularly the infamous Beauchamp Tower, bear engravings left by desperate prisoners, their names, dates, and sometimes defiant messages etched into the stone. A last, poignant cry against oblivion. Fast forward to later periods, and the tower continued its grim work. Guy Fawkes, the infamous conspirator behind the gunpowder plot, was interrogated and tortured within these walls. Imagine the terror, the pain, and the secrets forced from him in these cold, unyielding chambers. Even during the World Wars, the tower served as a prison for spies and traitors, proving that its dark legacy extended well into the 20th century. Its history is not just ancient lore. It's a living, breathing testament to the human struggle against power. But the tower wasn't just a place of confinement. It was a stage for public executions. While most high-profile prisoners were beheaded on Tower Hill, within sight of the public, others, deemed too politically dangerous to be exposed to the crowds, were executed privately within the tower precincts. This was considered an act of mercy for those of noble birth, sparing them the humiliation of a public spectacle. The Tower Green, a seemingly peaceful patch of grass today, was the site of these private beheadings. It's surreal to walk there, knowing the blood that once soaked into that very ground. Perhaps the most iconic figures associated with the tower are its guardians, the yeoman warders, affectionately known as Beef. Their vibrant red and gold uniforms stand in stark contrast to the somber gray of the fortress. They are more than just guards. They are storytellers, living links to the past, sharing the tower's history with visitors from around the world. They embody the continuity of this ancient institution, connecting its brutal past with its present role as a World Heritage Site. And let's not forget the ravens. Legend has it that if the 6 resident ravens ever leave the tower, the kingdom will fall. They are perhaps the most curious, and their dark plumage and intelligent eyes watching over the tower's secrets, perhaps even whispering tales to each other from their perches on the battlements. They're an enduring symbol, a mystical element that adds to the tower's unique charm and mystery. Today, the Tower of London welcomes millions of visitors each year. It is no longer a place of fear and execution, but a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a museum, and a symbol of British history. Yet, as you walk its ancient corridors, pass through its archways, and stand in its courtyards, you can almost feel the echoes of the past. The weight of nearly 1,000 years of human drama, of ambition, despair, and resilience is palpable. The tower reminds us that history is not just dates and names, but a complex tapestry of human experience, of power and vulnerability, justice and tyranny, hope and despair. It teaches us about the fragility of life and the enduring strength of structures that bear witness to it all. It stands as a powerful, haunting monument to the long and often bloody path that has shaped nations and defined destinies. So, the next time you think of the Tower of London, remember it's more than just a castle. It's a repository of stories, a silent guardian of secrets, a fortress of blood that continues to captivate and challenge our understanding of history. Today, we're diving deep into history, to a place that has stood for nearly 1,000 years, witnessing triumphs, tragedies, and secrets whispered through cold stone walls. We're talking about the iconic, and perhaps a little terrifying, Tower of London. Get ready, because this isn't just a building. It's a living, breathing chapter of England's dramatic past, and it demands your attention. Our story begins in a truly pivotal year, 1066. This isn't just any date. It's the year England changed forever. Imagine the scene. The clash of swords, the cries of battle, the fate of a nation hanging in the balance. King Harold Godwinson, the last Anglo-Saxon king of England, faces off against William, Duke of Normandy. At the legendary Battle of Hastings, it was a brutal, decisive encounter, and by the day's end, Harold was dead, and William, forever known as the Conqueror, had claimed the English crown. But victory on the battlefield was just the first step. William now had to control a country that wasn't exactly thrilled with its new Norman ruler. England was a volatile place, filled with rebellious Anglo-Saxons, and William knew he needed a symbol of his power, a fortress that would not only defend his new capital, London, but also project an undeniable, intimidating authority. He needed something that would make anyone think twice before rising against him. And so, from the ashes of conquest, William the Conqueror commissioned the construction of an unparalleled architectural marvel. He chose a strategic spot on the banks of the River Thames, where the city met the water, a perfect choke point for defense and control. This was no ordinary castle. It was to be a statement, a permanent reminder of Norman dominance. What rose from that ground, stone by stone, was the very heart of what we now call the Tower of London. Initially, it began with a ditch and a wooden palisade. But William's vision was far grander. He envisioned a mighty stone keep, a structure so imposing, so robust, that it would awe his subjects and strike fear into the hearts of any potential enemies. This initial, most famous part of the complex is what we now call the White Tower. It was a massive undertaking, requiring immense resources, skilled labor, and years of tireless work. Imagine the sheer scale of it for the 11th century. This wasn't just a building project. It was an act of architectural defiance. The Tower of London, even in its early stages, was more than just a defensive structure. It was designed to be a royal palace, a secure residence for the new Norman kings. It housed the royal menagerie with exotic animals, and even the public record office. It was a self-contained world, a hub of power, administration, and royal life, all protected by those formidable walls. But William's vision, while focused on control and stability, also came with a dark underside. From its very foundations, the tower became synonymous with imprisonment, torture, and execution. It became the ultimate holding place for those who dared to defy the crown, those who were deemed a threat to the established order. The tower, almost from the moment it began to rise, demanded blood. Think about it. A place designed to protect the king also became the most notorious prison in the land. The stark contrast between its grandeur and its grim purpose is what makes the tower so endlessly fascinating. Kings and queens walked its halls, while beneath their feet, political prisoners languished in its dungeons. It was a microcosm of royal power, absolute, magnificent, and often brutal. As the centuries passed, the tower continued to evolve and expand. Each successive monarch added their own layers to its defenses, their own interpretations of its purpose. Moats were dug, additional towers were built, and concentric rings of walls created an almost impenetrable fortress. By the time of Edward I, in the late 13th century, the tower had taken on much of the form we recognize today, a complex and formidable array of buildings within buildings. It truly was an architectural marvel of its time, showcasing the very best of medieval military engineering. But no matter how many walls were added, or how many kings resided within, the shadows of its purpose remained. The stories of its prisoners are what truly haunt the tower, weaving a chilling narrative through its long history. For hundreds of years, some of the most famous and infamous figures in English history found themselves locked within these very walls. Imagine what it must have been like to be brought to the tower, perhaps by barge along the Thames through Traitors' Gate, knowing that your fate was sealed. The sheer isolation, the cold dampness, the ever-present threat of interrogation or execution. It's enough to send a shiver down your spine even now. Take, for example, the tragic story of Anne Boleyn, King Henry VIII's second wife, whose rise to power had been so swift and dramatic, fell even faster. Accused of treason and adultery, she was imprisoned in the Queen's house within the tower, awaiting her execution. It's a stark reminder that even those closest to the monarch were not safe from the tower's grim embrace. Her ghost is said to still roam the chapel where she is buried. Then there are the princes in the tower, the mystery surrounding the disappearance of Edward V and his younger brother. Richard, Duke of York, remains one of history's most enduring enigmas. Imprisoned in the tower by their uncle Richard III, they vanish without a trace, their fate never officially confirmed. To this day, people debate whether they were murdered and who was responsible, making it a chilling tale of ambition and suspicion that forever stains the tower's reputation. And what about Lady Jane Grey, the 9 Days Queen? A pawn in a deadly Game of Thrones, she was proclaimed queen against her will, only to be deposed and imprisoned in the tower herself. Her youth and innocence made her execution all the more tragic, another poignant chapter in the tower's bloody ledger. These stories aren't just historical footnotes. They are deeply human tragedies played out within these very walls. But it wasn't just royalty who suffered within the tower. Political opponents, religious dissidents, and even ordinary people caught in a crossfire of power struggles found themselves here. Guy Fawkes, the mastermind behind the gunpowder plot, was tortured in the tower before his execution. Sir Walter Raleigh spent years imprisoned within its walls. using his time to write his history of the world. The tower held men and women from all walks of life, each leaving their own indelible mark on its legacy. Over time, the tower's role shifted, while it continued to function as a prison well into the 20th century. Indeed, the last prisoners were held there during World War II. Its primary function as a royal residence and a powerful fortress slowly gave way to its role as a historic monument and a tourist attraction. Yet, the echoes of its past remain palpable to anyone who walks its grounds. Today, the Tower of London stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a captivating blend of history, architecture, and legend. It's guarded by the yeoman warders, often called beefeaters, who are not just ceremonial figures, but also expert storytellers, sharing the tower's rich and often gruesome history with millions of visitors each year. They continue centuries-old traditions, including the ceremony of the keys, a nightly ritual that has unfolded without fail for over 700 years, ensuring the tower's security. The crown jewels, a dazzling collection of regalia and jewels, are now housed within the tower, a magnificent display of wealth and royal power, attracting visitors from all corners of the globe. And, of course, there are the ravens. Legend has it that if the ravens ever leave the tower, the kingdom will fall. So, a special group of ravens is kept within the tower, their wings clipped to ensure they don't fly too far. A charming, albeit slightly superstitious, tradition that adds to the tower's mystique. Walking through the tower today, you can explore the White Tower, marvel at the weaponry and armor collections, peer into the Bloody Tower where the princes are believed to have disappeared, and even visit Traitors' Gate, the infamous water entrance where so many prisoners made their final entry into the fortress. Each stone seems to whisper tales of power, treachery, courage, and despair. It's a place that forces you to confront the darker aspects of history, but also to appreciate the enduring resilience of human spirit. The tower reminds us that history is not just a collection of dates and names. It's a tapestry woven with human lives, emotions, and decisions that echo through time. It's a powerful symbol of England's past, a testament to its dramatic journey from conquest to global influence. So, the next time you think of London, remember the tower. It's not just an old building, it's a silent witness to 1,000 years of history, a symbol of royal power, and a chilling reminder of how much was sacrificed in the forging of a nation. It began as William the Conqueror's stark message of control, and it has remained a formidable presence, demanding respect, and indeed, blood, throughout its incredible story. Today, we're journeying back in time to one of the most iconic and, dare I say, chilling landmarks in history. The Tower of London. For centuries, this magnificent fortress, with its imposing stone walls and ancient battlements, has stood guard over England's capital. But it's not just a symbol of power. It's a place steeped in tales of intrigue, betrayal, and the ultimate price paid by those who fell from grace. Imagine its history. A royal palace, a treasury, an armory, and even a zoo at one point. But the tower's most enduring and haunting legacy is its role as a prison, a final holding place for the condemned. Within these very walls, queens, princes, and traitors alike awaited their fate, their stories echoing through the ages, forever etched into the cold stone. Today, we're going to delve into some of the most famous and tragic stories of those who passed through its formidable gates, never to leave freely again. Their courage, their last words, and the mystery surrounding their lives and deaths continue to fascinate us centuries later. It's a testament to the enduring power of human spirit, even in the face of absolute despair. Let's begin with a name that resonates deeply in British history. Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII. Her life was a whirlwind of ambition, power, and ultimately, a tragic downfall. Accused of treason and adultery, charges many historians now believe were politically motivated, she found herself imprisoned in the very place where she had once celebrated her coronation. Think about that for a moment. From queen to captive within the same walls. The morning of her execution in 1536 was a somber one. As she walked to the scaffold on Tower Green, a place of public humiliation and death, she maintained a remarkable composure. Can you imagine the fear, the weight of the world on her shoulders? Yet, even in her final moments, Anne Boleyn displayed incredible dignity. She didn't rail against her fate. Instead, She knelt and whispered words that still echo with a profound sense of duty and perhaps hope for her daughter, Elizabeth. She famously said, "I pray God save the king and send him a long reign." A remarkable statement, isn't it, from someone condemned by that very king? Then, with a swift, clean stroke, the sword fell. Her head was lifted for the assembled crowd, a brutal spectacle of royal power, and the legend goes, her spirit never truly left. They say her ghost still walks the Tower Green, a silent, regal figure, sometimes seen holding her head beneath her arm, a haunting reminder of her unjust end. It's a story that truly makes you reflect on the twists and turns of destiny. But Anne Boleyn was far from the only notable figure to meet her end. Within these historic confines, another poignant tale is that of Lady Jane Grey, often known as the 9 Days Queen. Her story is one of youth, innocence, and being caught in a brutal game of political chess. She was thrust onto the throne after the death of Edward VI, a pawn in the ambitions of others. At just 16 years old, she was a brilliant, scholarly young woman, more interested in books than crowns. Her reign, as the name suggests, was incredibly brief, quickly overthrown by Mary I, Henry VIII's eldest daughter. Lady Jane was subsequently imprisoned in the Tower, and despite pleas for mercy, she too was condemned to execution. Think of the sheer tragedy. A girl, barely out of childhood, facing such a grim fate. Her courage in those final moments is truly inspiring. Before the blade dropped, Lady Jane Grey uttered words that have resonated through the centuries, a testament to her unwavering faith. "Lord, into thy hands I commend my spirit." Her execution took place in February 1554, and it's said that her blood stained the stone of the tower. And many believe, even to this day, that her blood never truly fades, a permanent mark of her sacrifice and the cruelty of power struggles. These stories aren't just history. They're profound lessons in resilience and the human spirit's capacity for grace under pressure. Beyond these famous queens, countless others met their tragic end here. The 2 young princes in the Tower, Edward V and his brother Richard, Duke of York, are perhaps the most famous unsolved mystery. Imprisoned in 1483 by their uncle, Richard III, they vanished without a trace. Did they die of natural causes? Were they murdered? The truth remains elusive. Adding to the Tower is a dark azure. Imagine the fear and loneliness these young boys must have experienced, trapped within those cold walls, their fates unknown for centuries. And what about Sir Walter Raleigh, a celebrated explorer, writer, and courtier? He spent years imprisoned in the Bloody Tower, often writing and conducting experiments. He was eventually executed outside the Tower in 1680. Even less known are the thousands of ordinary people, often accused of lesser crimes or political dissent, who face their own terror within these walls. Each brick, each stone, seems to hold a whisper of their stories, their hopes, and their ultimate despair. The Tower of London reminds us that history isn't just about dates and events. It's about people, their lives, their struggles, and their enduring impact. It's a place that forces us to confront the darkest aspects of human nature: ambition, cruelty, and injustice, but also the incredible strength and dignity that people can show in the face of unimaginable adversity. Visiting the Tower today is a truly unique experience. You walk the same paths where queens once paraded and prisoners once trembled. You can feel the weight of history around you, sense the spirits of those who lived and died there. It's a place of learning, reflection, and a deep connection to the past. It serves as a powerful reminder of how far society has come in terms of justice and human rights, and how important it is to never forget the lessons of history. It's truly incredible how these stories, centuries later, still captivate and move us. The Tower isn't just an old building. It's a living, breathing testament to the human experience, in all its triumphs and tragedies. It shows us that, even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can shine through. I hope you enjoyed this journey through the haunting history of the Tower of London. It's a place that continually sparks our imagination and encourages us to reflect on the past and chilling mysteries. Right at the heart of one of England's most iconic landmarks, the Tower of London. Forget your usual ghost stories. This one is woven into the very fabric of British history, a tale of power, betrayal, and two young boys who simply vanished. Our story begins in the turbulent year of 1483. England was still reeling from the Wars of the Roses, a brutal struggle for the throne between the houses of Lancaster and York. At this point, the Yorkists were in charge, led by King Edward IV, a charismatic and imposing figure. He had two young sons, Prince Edward, who was about 12 years old, and Prince Richard, around 9. These boys were the future of England, heirs to the powerful House of York, and seemingly destined for greatness. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. In April of 1483, King Edward IV, still a relatively young man at 40, unexpectedly died. His death plunged the kingdom into immediate uncertainty. His eldest son, Prince Edward, was now King Edward V, but he was far too young to rule. According to the customs of the time, a regent would be needed to govern in his stead until he came of age. And who was appointed for this crucial role? None other than the late king's younger brother, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, the boy's uncle. Now, Richard of Gloucester was a seasoned warrior and a man of significant influence. On the surface, he appeared to be the logical choice, a loyal protector of his nephews and the kingdom. He was traveling north when he received the news of his brother's death and immediately began his journey south, gathering support and seemingly preparing to escort his nephew, the new young king, to London for his coronation. But as Richard made his way to the capital, things started to take a peculiar turn. He intercepted Prince Edward V on his journey to London and, citing safety concerns and the need for the young king to be properly prepared for his coronation, convinced him to take up residence in the Tower of London. Now, while the Tower might seem like a grim place, it was customary for monarchs to stay there before their coronation. It had royal apartments and was considered a fortress, offering protection. So, initially, this wasn't seen as entirely unusual. However, soon after Prince Edward V was settled, his younger brother, Prince Richard, Duke of York, was also brought to the Tower. The official reason was to keep the royal brothers together, for company and security. They were seen playing in the gardens, attending chapel, and seemingly enjoying their time within the tower's walls. They were often spotted by guards and servants, two bright young boys, the future hopes of a nation, albeit temporarily confined. But then, the outside world started to shift dramatically. Richard of Gloucester, the uncle, began to consolidate power rapidly. He declared King Edward IV's marriage to Elizabeth Woodville invalid, claiming that children were illegitimate. This was a shocking and deeply destabilizing move, effectively stripping his nephews of their claim to the throne. Many were stunned, bewildered by this sudden turn of events. And then, the unthinkable happened. Weeks after the boys were brought to the Tower, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, declared himself king. He was crowned Richard III in July of 1483. And the princes themselves, they were never seen again. They simply vanished from public view. One day they were there, the next, gone. Their absence created a gaping hole in the narrative, a deafening silence that would echo through history for centuries. What happened to them? Did they escape? Were they secretly whisked away to safety? Or did something far more sinister occur within those ancient walls? The official story, for a long time, remained a mystery, shrouded in rumor and speculation. Richard III's enemies, quite naturally, were quick to accuse him of their murder, painting him as a cruel and ruthless usurper who would stop at nothing to secure the crown. This image of the villainous king, famously immortalized by Shakespeare, has persisted for centuries. However, Richard III had his supporters, then and now, who argued that he had no motive to kill them, especially if he could simply declare them illegitimate and still secure the throne. Some historians have even suggested other culprits, like Henry Tudor, who would later defeat Richard III and become King Henry VII, or even various factions who might have seen the boys as pawns in a larger political game. The theories are as numerous and varied as the historians who have delved into this enigma. Fast forward almost 200 years to 1674, during a renovation project at the Tower of London. Workmen were digging beneath a staircase, specifically the stairs leading to the chapel in the White Tower, when they made a truly chilling discovery. Buried deep within the rubble were two small skeletons, tiny bones, children's bones. The location, the age range, The historical context, it was impossible not to connect them to the vanished princes. King Charles II, then on the throne, ordered that these remains be properly interred in Westminster Abbey, believing them to be the bones of the princes in the Tower. It was a somber moment, providing a tangible, albeit heartbreaking, piece of evidence to this centuries-old puzzle. Over time, further examinations of the bones, though limited by the technology of the day, seemed to corroborate the idea that they belonged to two boys around the ages of the princes. Yet, even this discovery didn't definitively close the case. The identity of the skeletons has been debated ever since, without modern DNA testing, which has been consistently denied permission to avoid disturbing royal graves. We can't say with absolute scientific certainty that these are indeed the princes. This lack of definitive proof has kept the mystery alive, allowing historians, enthusiasts, and even casual observers to endlessly speculate. And so, the legend persists. The Tower of London, already steeped in tales of imprisonment and execution, gained an even more poignant and tragic dimension. It's said that the ghosts of the young princes still wander the ancient corridors, particularly in the White Tower. Visitors and yeoman warders, the tower's famous guardians, have reported strange sensations, cold spots, or even fleeting glimpses of two small, spectral figures. The most heart-wrenching accounts describe them walking hand in hand, two innocent boys, eternally searching for their mother, perhaps, or simply searching for a way out of the timeless labyrinth they became trapped in. The mystery of the princes in the tower is more than just a historical whodunit. It's a powerful narrative about innocence lost, the corrupting influence of power, and the enduring human fascination with unresolved questions. It reminds us that even within the grand tapestry of royal history, there are quiet, heartbreaking personal tragedies that continue to resonate through the ages. And for as long as the Tower of London stands, the silent, vanished princes will remain its most poignant and whispered secret. Your support helps us uncover more of history's fascinating stories. Today, we're journeying back in time to one of the most iconic, yet haunting, landmarks in English history, the Tower of London. You know it for its incredible architecture, its royal connections, and maybe even its famous ravens. But beneath its grand exterior, deep within its ancient walls, lies a much darker story. A story of fear, injustice, and incredible human resilience. We're going to explore some of the places where history truly comes alive, where the very stones seem to whisper tales of the past. Imagine standing where countless individuals, from queens to commoners, faced their ultimate test. It's a powerful experience, reminding us of how far we've come and the importance of justice and human dignity. Now, when you hear Tower of London, you might instantly think of its grim reputation. And while it's true that many dark deeds unfolded here, it's also a place of immense historical significance. A fortress that protected London for centuries, a royal palace, and a treasury. But today, our focus narrows to a specific, more somber aspect. The infamous places within its walls that were once instruments of interrogation and confinement. It's a part of history that, while unsettling, offers profound lessons about power, truth, and the human spirit under immense pressure. We're not here to dwell on the horrific details, but to understand the historical context and the enduring impact these places had on the lives of those imprisoned here. So, let's start our journey into the shadows, but with a respectful and thoughtful perspective. We're going to uncover the stories of resilience, the moments of defiance, and the sheer human will to survive, even in the most dire circumstances. It's a powerful reminder of our shared past and the values we uphold today. First on our path is the Bloody Tower. Now, the name itself sends shivers down your spine, doesn't it? It's a place steeped in mystery and tragedy, most famously associated with the disappearance of the young princes in the Tower, Edward V and his brother Richard, Duke of York. Their fate remains one of history's great unsolved puzzles. Imagine the atmosphere within these walls, thick with centuries of speculation and unanswered questions. It's a poignant reminder of the fragility of power and the innocence lost in political struggles. Beyond this particular mystery, the Bloody Tower was also a place of high secrecy and imprisonment. So Walter Raleigh, the famed explorer, spent many years confined here. But even amidst his imprisonment, he found a way to thrive, writing his monumental history of the world within these very walls. It's an incredible testament to the human spirit's ability to find purpose and create, even in the most restrictive environments. Rowley's story transforms the Bloody Tower from just a place of confinement into a symbol of intellectual endurance and the power of the mind. He turned adversity into an opportunity for scholarship, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire. It's a powerful message, isn't it? That even when our physical freedom is curtailed, our minds can still soar. Next, we venture towards the Wakefield Tower. This isn't just another tower. It holds a very significant and ultimately tragic royal connection. It was here that King Henry VI was allegedly murdered while at prayer in 1471, during the tumultuous Wars of the Roses. Imagine the weight of history in that very room, a place where a king's life was unjustly ended. The Wakefield Tower was initially built as a royal residence, a place of comfort and ceremony. But like so many parts of the tower, its purpose evolved, often tragically. It's now home to the crown jewels, a dazzling display of royal power and history. The contrast is striking, isn't it? A place once associated with murder now houses the symbols of continuous monarchy. It reminds us that history is constantly layered, with moments of darkness often paving the way for new beginnings and enduring legacies. The jewels themselves tell a story of continuity, resilience, and the evolving nature of power. They are a tangible link to centuries of British history, sparkling reminders of the past, present, and future. Now, let us talk about the more infamous aspects, often associated with the tower, the torture room. It is important to clarify that while interrogations often occurred under duress and the threat of torture was very real and often employed, there wasn't one single designated torture room as depicted in some sensationalized accounts. Instead, these grim procedures took place in various cells and chambers, wherever it was deemed expedient. The true horror wasn't always a specific chamber, but the methods themselves and the psychological impact they had. Imagine the fear, the desperation, the desperate longing for relief that must have consumed those held captive here. We hear tales of instruments like the rack. This device was designed to stretch a person's body, gradually dislocating joints and tearing muscles. The objective wasn't always to kill, but to break the will, to extract confessions, whether true or false. It's a chilling reminder of how desperate people become when faced with unbearable physical pain. Many prisoners, faced with such agonizing prospects, confessed to crimes they never committed, simply to make the torments stop. It speaks volumes about the human threshold for pain and the terrible choices people were forced to make. The very idea of such an ordeal is profoundly unsettling, highlighting the historical misuse of power and the brutal realities of justice in earlier eras. Tentere was the scavenger's daughter. This was, in a way, the opposite of the rack. Instead of stretching, it compressed the body, forcing the head towards the feet, often crushing the chest and spine. The pain would have been immense, a suffocating agony that tested the limits of human endurance. These were not just instruments of physical pain. They were designed to dismantle a person's spirit, to strip away their dignity and their will to resist. The thought of being confined in such a device, feeling your body contort and compress, is truly horrifying. It's a stark reminder of the lengths to which authorities would go to extract information, and the immense pressure placed upon the accused. It's a dark chapter, but one that teaches us about the evolution of legal systems and human rights. And let's not forget the isolation, which could be its own form of torture. In places like the Salt Tower, prisoners endured solitary confinement. Imagine being completely cut off from the outside world, with only your thoughts for company. For some, this isolation was a slow descent into madness. Stories recount men carving prayers, names, or desperate messages into the stone walls with whatever they could find. Sometimes even their own broken fingernails. These etchings, still visible today, are incredibly poignant. They are raw, personal testimonials, a desperate cry for connection, a testament to the human need to leave a mark, to prove they existed. They represent an incredible act of defiance, a refusal to be forgotten, even in the deepest despair. It reminds us of the profound psychological impact of isolation and the resilience of the human spirit to seek expression, even in the most dire circumstances. These aren't just carvings, they are voices from the past, echoing tales of hope, fear, and enduring faith. It's easy to get lost in the grim details, but what these stories truly reveal is not just the darkness, but the incredible resilience of the human spirit. In the face of unimaginable suffering, people found ways to endure, to resist, to hope. Their stories, though often tragic, are also testaments to courage, to defiance, and to the enduring human quest for truth and justice. The tower, in its silent watch, bears witness to these countless individual struggles, reminding us of the importance of compassion, fairness, and the protection of human rights. These historical accounts are vital. They teach us about the evolution of justice, the importance of due process, and the value of human dignity. They stand as a powerful reminder of what happens when power is unchecked, and why we must always strive for a just and humane society. Understanding these challenging parts of our history helps us appreciate the progress we've made and encourages us to continue building a world where such injustices are relics of the past. So, while the Tower of London may have its grim legends, it's also a place of profound learning. It's a powerful educator, showing us not just the depths of human cruelty, but also the heights of human endurance and the unwavering spirit of those who faced impossible odds. It encourages us to reflect on our own values and to champion fairness and empathy in our world today. Today, we're stepping outside the iconic walls of the Tower of London to explore a place shrouded in darkness, drama, and countless untold stories. Tower Hill. Prepare yourselves, because this isn't just any historical site. It's a stage where some of history's most pivotal and brutal moments played out. When you think of the tower, you might imagine its imposing structure, its royal prisoners, or even its resident ravens. But just beyond its formidable gates on the sloping ground of Tower Hill, a different kind of history unfolded. A history marked by the swing of an executioner's axe, the roar of a crowd, and the final breaths of men and women whose fates changed the course of nations. For centuries, this patch of ground was the public spectacle of ultimate justice, or perhaps ultimate injustice. It was here that thousands gathered, not to celebrate, but to witness the end. Imagine standing there yourself, centuries ago, jostling for space among a sea of faces. The air crackled with anticipation, a mix of fear, morbid curiosity, and sometimes even defiance. The scene was set, a makeshift scaffold, often draped in black, standing stark against the London sky. A hush would fall over the crowd as the condemned was brought forth. Their last walk, a journey from the tower gates to their final moments. This wasn't a quiet affair. It was a public spectacle, designed to send a chilling message about the power of the crown. Let's talk about some of the names etched into this grim history. They aren't just names in textbooks. They were real people, with real lives, real convictions, and real fears. Perhaps one of the most famous is Sir Thomas More, the brilliant scholar and Lord Chancellor to King Henry VIII. His crime, refusing to acknowledge the king as the supreme head of the Church of England. He stood firm in his beliefs, a man of unwavering principle, even when faced with the ultimate penalty. On July 6, 1535, he ascended the scaffold on Tower Hill, reportedly making a wry joke to his executioner about his beard being clear of the axe. A man of wit to the very end, his execution sent shockwaves across Europe, a stark reminder of the king's absolute power and the dangerous times they lived in. Then there's Thomas Cromwell, the very man who orchestrated the downfall of so many others, including More. Cromwell, once Henry VIII's chief minister, the architect of the English Reformation, eventually fell from grace himself. Accused of treason and heresy, he met his end on Tower Hill in 1540. His execution was particularly brutal, even by the standards of the time, described as clumsy and prolonged. It's a testament to the capricious nature of power during the Tudor era. One day you're at the keenest side, the next you're on the block. The irony of his fate, given his role in the executions of others, is a chilling historical twist. And who could forget Guy Fawkes? While he was unexecuted on Tower Hill, he was drawn and quartered in the old palace yard at Westminster after jumping from the gallows. To avoid the full horror of his sentence, his name is forever linked with the gunpowder plot and the chilling implications of rebellion against the state. His co-conspirators, however, did meet their ends on Tower Hill. The very idea of an attempt to blow up Parliament and the King sent shivers down the spine of England, and the public executions served as a brutal deterrent against any future acts of sedition. The message was clear: challenge the crown, and you will pay the ultimate price, publicly and painfully. The individuals brought to Tower Hill often came from all walks of life, though many were prominent figures, from nobles like Lord Guildford Dudley, the husband of Lady Jane Grey, to religious dissenters and political rivals. The scaffold spared few who crossed the wrong path or held convictions deemed dangerous by the ruling power. Each execution was a story in itself, a tapestry woven with courage, despair, and defiance. Some prayed openly, seeking solace in their faith in their final moments. Others cursed the very crown that condemned them, their last words a defiant scream against tyranny. The crowds watched, some cheering, some weeping, some silent witnesses to the grim theater of state power. What strikes you about Tower Hill isn't just the sheer number of executions, but the profound human drama played out there. These weren't just historical footnotes. They were lives cut short, families shattered, and legacies forever altered. The ground itself, people say, has absorbed centuries of blood, tears, and raw human emotion. It's a place that whispers stories to those who listen closely. And the stories don't end with death. According to legend, the spirits of the executed are said to linger. The Tower of London is famously one of the most haunted places in Britain, and it's no surprise that the spectral activity extends to Tower Hill. Imagine the restless souls, still bound to the place of their final torment. Some say they return to the tower, perhaps seeking a justice denied to them in life, or simply unable to find peace after such a violent end. Their spirits are described as angry, sorrowful, or simply waiting, perhaps for their stories to be fully told, for their voices to be heard across the centuries. It's a haunting thought, adding another layer of mystery and solemnity to an already profound location. Tower Hill today is a peaceful, open space, a world away from its bloody past. A small memorial stands there, a simple square of paving that marks the site of the scaffold, reminding us of the countless lives that ended there. It's a powerful reminder of history's lessons of the dangers of unchecked power, the courage of conviction, and the enduring human spirit in the face of adversity. It's a place for reflection, for remembering, and for understanding the foundations of the world we live in today. So, the next time you find yourself near the Tower of London, take a moment to pause at Tower Hill. Close your eyes and listen. You might just hear the echoes of the past, the murmur of the crowd, the final words of those who stood bravely on that ground. It's a testament to human resilience and a stark reminder of our shared history. Forget the textbooks for a moment, because we're heading to a place where the past isn't just remembered. It's asterisk-felt asterisk. We're talking about the Tower of London, a place steeped in over 900 years of history, grandeur, and, as many believe, restless spirits. Now, during the day, it's a bustling hub. Tourists wander through its ancient halls, snapping photos, laughing, and soaking up the incredible stories of kings, queens, and infamous prisoners. It's a magnificent fortress, an iconic landmark that draws millions every year. But beneath that veneer of modern-day tourism, there's another narrative, one whispered in hushed tones, especially after the sun sets and the crowds thin out. Who are the keepers of these secrets? None other than the legendary yeoman warders themselves. The tower's iconic guardians, often called beefeaters. These aren't just tour guides, they're seasoned veterans, intimately familiar with every stone, every shadow, and every chilling legend that clings to the tower. And many of them, despite their stoic demeanor, will tell you that when darkness falls, the tower truly comes alive in ways that defy rational explanation. They speak of things that send shivers down your spine, not as fanciful tales, but as experiences they've witnessed firsthand. Imagine this: you're walking alone at night, on duty, within those ancient walls, and you hear something, or see something, that simply shouldn't be there. That's the reality, for many. A yeoman warder, perhaps the most famous spectral resident, is Anne Boleyn, Henry VIII's second wife, tragically executed on Tower Hill in 1536. Her story is one of ambition, power, betrayal, and ultimately, a brutal end. It's said that she still roams the Tower grounds, especially near the Chapel Royal of St. Peter ad Vincula, where her headless body was buried. Warders and visitors alike have reported seeing her spectral form, often described as a pale, elegant figure, gliding silently through the corridors, sometimes holding her severed head beneath her arm. Can you imagine turning a corner and seeing that asterisk? The sheer sorrow and injustice of her fate seem to have tethered her spirit to this place forever. But it isn't alone in her eternal vigil. The tower has seen countless tragedies, and many of its former inhabitants seem reluctant to leave. Another heartbreaking tale is that of the boy princes, Edward V and his younger brother Richard, Duke of York. They were imprisoned in the Bloody Tower in 1483, never to be seen again. Their fate remains one of history's most enduring mysteries, widely believed to have been murdered by their uncle, the future King Richard III, and their cries, almost 500 years later, are still heard. Warders have recounted hearing the faint, mournful sobs and whimpers of children echoing from within the Bloody Tower, particularly late at night when the tower is quiet. Some have even reported seeing two small figures, clad in white nightshirts, holding hands, drifting through the rooms before vanishing. The profound sadness of two young lives cut short, trapped within those stone walls, seems to resonate through time, a ghostly echo of their desperate plight. And then there are the truly unsettling encounters. One particular god, a man not prone to flights of fancy, swears he saw something truly horrific. He described a headless ghost, not an Anne Boleyn, but a different, more grotesque apparition, wandering near the White Tower, the tower's oldest and most central building. He vividly recounted seeing this spectral figure, headless and bleeding, leaving a trail of spectral blood across the ancient stones. Imagine the sheer terror of witnessing something so visceral, so utterly impossible, in the dead of night. It's enough to make your heart pound just thinking about it. It's not just human spirits either. The very atmosphere of the tower seems to react to these unseen presences. Animals, particularly the resident ravens, who, by legend, must never leave the tower or the monarchy will fall, often become agitated near certain rooms or areas. They'll squawk, peck at nothing, or refuse to enter certain spaces, as if sensing something invisible to the human eye. It's as if the residual energy of past events still vibrates within the very fabric of the building, affecting even the animals who call it home. And speaking of unexplained phenomena, imagine this. You're patrolling an empty corridor, the kind that usually requires artificial light, even during the day, and suddenly the lights begin to flicker erratically, or even go out completely, plunging you into darkness. This isn't a rare occurrence. Many staff members have reported lights flickering, doors opening and closing by themselves, or strange cold spots appearing in otherwise warm rooms. It's as if the spirits are playfully, or perhaps not so playfully, interacting with the modern world. But perhaps the most poignant and spine-tingling experience of all is reserved for those exceptionally still nights, when the wind blows just right, rustling through the tower's ancient battlements and courtyards, creating a mournful hum. That's when it truly gets eerie. Amidst the natural sounds of the night, and even above the occasional call of the ravens, you can sometimes hear it, faint, distant sobs and cries carried on the wind. It's an auditory haunting that transcends specific locations, a pervasive lament that seems to emanate from the very stones of the tower itself, a testament to the countless lives that ended within its walls. The Tower of London isn't just a historical monument. It's a living, breathing museum of human drama, and perhaps a permanent residence for some of its most tragic figures. These aren't just old wives' tales. They are stories passed down by those who live and work within its imposing walls, the very people who stand guard over its secrets day in and day out. They are the eyewitnesses to the tower's enduring, ghostly legacy. So, the next time you find yourself planning a trip to London, and you decide to visit the magnificent tower, remember these stories, walk its grounds, explore its towers, and soak in its history. But also, take a moment to pause, to listen, and to perhaps feel the echoes of the past. You never know who or what might be watching. It's a place where history isn't just taught, it's truly haunted. Opening with a captivating visual of the Tower of London, perhaps a time-lapse from day to night, or a drone shot sweeping over the grounds. Today, we're stepping back in time, way back, to a place where history isn't just written in books, it's carved into stone, whispered on the wind, and practically breathes around you. We're talking about one of the most iconic, mysterious, and downright fascinating landmarks in the world. The Tower of London. Now, when you first hear Tower of London, what comes to mind? Maybe the crown jewels, the beefeaters, or even those famous ravens, right? But this Ison isn't just a pretty postcard. It is a place with stories that will send shivers down your spine and spark your imagination like few others. It was built to protect a kingdom, a mighty fortress designed to stand guard over England's capital. But here is where it gets interesting. What was meant to be a shield for the realm often became a cage for souls. From its very foundations, laid way back in the 11th century by William the Conqueror, this place has been at the epicenter of British power, politics, and occasionally, pure drama. Think about it. Nearly 1,000 years of history encased within these formidable walls, the very stones. Here hold memory. They've silently witnessed ambitions so grand it could change nations. Betrayals so deep, they tore families apart, and executions that echoed through the ages. And yes, they've seen fear, raw and palpable, from those who knew their time was running out. It's easy to walk through the tower today and see it as a relic, a museum. But if you pause, if you really listen beyond the tourist chatter and the guide's explanations, you can almost hear the heartbeat of history. It's still beating, pulsing with tales of triumph and tragedy, power and vulnerability. This isn't just a building. It's a living, breathing testament to the human spirit in all its complex forms. So, let's dive deeper. Let's peel back the layers of legend and fact surrounding this incredible structure. We're going to explore how it evolved from a simple wooden fort to the imposing stone fortress we see today. We'll discover why it became such a feared prison and meet some of its most famous, or infamous, residents. We'll delve into the rituals, the symbols, and the sheer human drama that unfolded within its walls. The tower isn't just about dark stories, though it's also a symbol of resilience. It stood through fires, plagues, wars, and social upheaval, always adapting, always enduring. It's a place where kings and queens celebrated, where incredible riches were stored, and where decisions that shaped the world were made. It's a place of incredible architectural ingenuity, a fortress designed to be almost impregnable. Think of the White Tower, its iconic central keep, a marvel of Norman architecture that has dominated the London skyline for centuries. It wasn't just a home for royalty, it was a statement of power, a visual declaration of authority. But let's not forget its role. It's a prison. The phrase, "sent to the tower," struck terror into the hearts of many. It wasn't just a jail. It was often a waiting room for execution, a place of isolation and despair. Imagine being escorted through Traitors' Gate, a dark archway leading directly from the River Thames, knowing that your fate was sealed. The tower housed everyone from high-ranking nobility and queens to poets and rebels. Anne Boleyn, Catherine Howard, Lady Jane Grey. Their stories are forever intertwined with these stones. Their final moments were spent within these very walls, under the watchful, silent gaze of the tower. We'll explore some of these personal stories, trying to understand the human experience behind the historical facts. And then there are the myths and legends. The tower is a hotbed of paranormal activity, or so the stories go. From headless apparitions to ghostly whispers, centuries of intense emotion have left their mark. While we might not believe in ghosts, it's fascinating to consider how these tales contribute to the tower's mystique and enduring appeal. They remind us that history isn't just dates and names. It's about the lives lived, the emotions felt, and the echoes that linger. Let's also talk about the yeoman warders, affectionately known as the beef. These iconic guardians aren't just ceremonial figures. They are veterans of the British Armed Forces, steeped in the tower's history, and fantastic storytellers in their own right. They are the living link between the tower's past and its vibrant present. carrying on traditions that are centuries old. And what about the ravens? Legend says that if the ravens ever leave the tower, the kingdom will fall. It's a superstition that has been taken very seriously for centuries, ensuring that a healthy flock of these intelligent birds always resides here. They are as much a part of the tower's identity as its battlements. The Tower of London is a place that defies simple categorization. It's a fortress, a palace, a prison, a place of execution, a royal mint, an armory, and now, a world-famous tourist attraction and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a testament to architectural endurance and human history. It reminds us that even in the darkest chapters of history, there is always something to learn, something to understand about power, ambition, justice, and the sheer strength of the human spirit. It's truly a place where you can feel the weight of centuries pressing in, a place that continues to inspire awe, curiosity, and a deep respect for the past. The tower still stands, proud and silent, a constant presence on the London skyline. But if you take a moment, if you truly listen, beyond the buzz of modern life, you'll hear the faint, echoing heartbeat of history within its ancient stones. It's a reminder that while time moves forward, the echoes of the past remain, shaping our present and influencing our future. So, what do you think? Have you ever visited the Tower of London? What was your most memorable experience there? Let us know in the comments below.